All right, Bill. Welcome back to the show. Pleasure to have you again here, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. Can't complain. Can't complain. About to tomorrow flying out on a plane to Chicago for a few days for work. So it's going to be hectic weekend, but excited to do it. So it'll be a nice little mini vacation at least for a few days.
It's a good city to be in. A lot of
Yeah.
fun there.
You said you were on the course today. How'd you hit?
Not well.
Yeah, it
I'm struggling.
happens. It
I'm in
happens
a
to the
little
best of us. Do
early
what?
season struggle right now.
Ah,
Little early season struggling right now. It's not pretty right now.
you got plenty of
But
time. I have no
yeah, oh,
doubt
yeah.
you'll get back to your old ways.
I hope
Well,
so.
hopefully the old ways were good at least and not worse than
Better
what
than what
they
it
they
is
would be
now.
now. Yeah. But again, thank you for joining today. Obviously, we've got a few kind of topics that have just been top of mind as we've had the recent kind of commitments here from Dylan Raiola, former Ohio State commit, obviously number one kid in the 2024 class, huge prospect. But kind of want to talk a little bit just about I know Kirk has had kind of like a little bit more of an inside foot into just the family and the relationships and kind of how that all went down, but it's just been a weird commitment cycle. And I feel like we see this at least once in every cycle where there's one kid that, commits early and then flips. And obviously we saw it with Quinn Ewers a little bit kind of later in the process. But this one to me just seemed a little bit weird and not necessarily just because it was Georgia, but I don't even remember there being a ton of buzz around Nebraska with all the ties that he has there. So, I mean, going to Georgia, obviously a lot of kids want to go there. It's back-to-back national championships. It's, who's going to be next, kind of, filling in those roles as they go and trying to win more and more and more. So can't really knock the kid, but I mean, any insight just into like how he lands at Georgia, what is the thought process behind it? And, I mean, as far as Buckeye fans are concerned, is this something that we might need to look out for here in a couple of years?
Well, in terms of what happened, that's a tough one. I don't know. I've heard a lot of little things. Never really heard anything major that would cause him, to have decommitted from Ohio State in the first place.
Hmm.
And like you said, going to Georgia, they're Georgia. Back to back national championships, that does not happen often. So you give someone credit. You can pull back to back. If you can win one, you're doing
Yep.
great. So back to back is pretty special. So going there, that part, I guess makes sense. But he's a quarterback. And I would think his main goal in playing college football would be to be developed for the NFL. And, I don't think there's a lot there that Georgia can really hang their hat on,
Yeah.
not compared to, what Ryan Day has done at Ohio State. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me if you look at it strictly from being developed for the NFL. And then, even if he would have went to Nebraska, not that they're, the great quarterback whisperers there either, but he probably would have started as a freshman,
Hmm.
got on the field right away. He probably could have named his offensive coordinator. They would have had some leeway there to kind of bully a little bit,
Yeah.
what they want. That ain't happening in Georgia. Okay, they don't need Dylan Raiola at all. So he needs to go in there with, the attitude that he's going to work his tail off to get what he can get. Because if he goes in there thinking anything's going to be handed to him, a coach coming off a national championship is not going to
Hmm.
be swayed by some hot shot recruit. When you're back to back, you're not swayed by anybody on your current team, let alone some high school junior, going to tell you what's
Yep.
going to happen. I mean, and you go play for Kirby Smart. It's like joining the military. You better be tough. You better be physically tough. You better be mentally tough. That's not an easy place to play. So does he have talent? He's got amazing talent. I mean, he's number one in that class for a reason. He he didn't win that in a lottery. He's earned that, and he's got all the tools to be a really, really great quarterback, not only in college but in the NFL someday. So, if Dylan Raiola, if his attitude is right, and he goes in there with, an attitude that he is going to bust his tail to get whatever comes his way, then he should be fine. He should have a great career there. And, for me, there would be question marks about, what type of offense they're going to run. Now they did develop Stetson. They took a walk-on kid and Stetson Bennett, turned him into a pretty darn good football player. He's going to be in the NFL next year. But that offensive coordinator, Todd Monken's not there anymore. He's with the Ravens. So I think there's, while Georgia is the now program right now, there's no doubt about it. I think there are some question marks when you go there as a quarterback looking to be developed for the NFL. So
even
we're going to see. I mean, my feeling is it's going to be.
Yeah, even offensively, when I look at Georgia, I think of running backs. I mean, that's the only offensive
Sure,
position
they run the
that
ball. They play D.
yeah,
But,
like I don't think wide receivers, I don't think
yeah,
quarterback. I think defense and I think
no,
running backs, and
and the tight ends. They
yeah,
really
yeah, the
emphasize the
tight ends.
tight end position. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. I mean, the kid is so darn talented that he legitimately should be able to go to any of the 120 D1 schools in America and end up in the NFL.
Yeah,
But we're going to see. I mean, it's just, to me, it's going to be must see TV over the next few years. I want to see how this one goes with Kirby and the Raiola clan. We'll see. We'll see how
yeah,
it goes. And if Dylan's right, then this is going to work out great because he's a heck of a talent.
yeah. And you mentioned earlier too, like going to
Mm.
Nebraska, you have so much that you can name. When it
Oh,
comes to being a Raiola, when it going there,
yeah.
it's funny, like trying to imagine a player doing something similar to an Urban Meyer or to a Nick Saban or any of the college coaches that have earned the respect of those players, and they don't need those players more
No.
than those players need that coach, right? And I think Kirby Smart
Yeah.
is in that same conversation, given the
Yes,
last
he
few
is.
years, especially.
Well, they've won back-to-back national championships. They're going to be the favorite this year to win it again. As a head coach, that gives you a lot of cachet. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not taking any crap off some snotty-nosed high school junior. That ain't going to happen, or his dad. So, like I say, if they'd have went to Nebraska, I mean, things would have been laid out for them the way they want
yeah,
them laid out. They could have changed the colors of the school or named the stadium after themselves if they wanted to. But so we'll see. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me why he would have decommitted from Ohio State because, and as far as I know, there never was an incident. Nothing
yeah.
went wrong that I know of. And then to be able to play for Ryan Day, the receivers they're bringing in, the system that they're developing. It's not even so much that Ohio State scores a lot of points. Okay, yeah, that's fun. But look at the quarterbacks being developed there
Hmm.
and where those quarterbacks are ending up. The late Dwayne Haskins,
Yep.
Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. I mean, there's a history there. I mean,
Well,
and it speaks for itself. I mean,
and it's funny too, because
so
like the knock is always, well, yeah, those they get drafted, but Ohio State quarterbacks never perform well. Okay, well, neither do Alabama quarterbacks
yeah, they get
historically.
paid though. They make
Oh
money.
yeah,
I'll tell you
yeah,
that.
absolutely, and that's half the game, right? Is you got to get drafted in order to get paid, right? And uh, I mean, the fact that maybe they don't become NFL superstars, really there's no one school you can point to, in my opinion, that produces consistently NFL caliber superstars at quarterback. And it's such a just a crapshoot of you got to get into the right
Yeah,
system, you got to get into the right scheme with the right
exactly.
coaches and the right personnel around you to then be successful for many years. And a lot of these players that get drafted in the first round at quarterback are in not ideal situations to
Right.
say the least,
Right.
right? So like
And
the development portion of getting those guys to the NFL the way that Ryan Day has is proven in such a stronger capacity than it is with Georgia. And no,
yeah.
Georgia's got it at other positions for sure, but it is definitely a little strange to see a jump to a program that hasn't really produced the level of quarterback that gets drafted highly in that same sense.
And you can always argue the whole Ohio State quarterback thing in the NFL by saying, Dwayne Haskins went to a horrible situation.
Hmm.
The Washington team is, the owner's being run out of the league,
Yep.
so that was messed up from the top down. Um, and then we had heard reports, and I believe them, that Ron Rivera never wanted Dwayne Haskins.
Hmm.
That was the owner that wanted him, the owner that's being run out of the league on a rail. So that was just a bad situation there. I don't know who could have survived in that caustic culture they have there. So
Hmm.
I throw that one out. And then you look at, Justin Fields. Justin Fields has now had, two head coaches, two offensive
Hmm.
coordinators, two different systems. And he was really coming on last year. So it's way
Yep.
too soon to label Justin Fields as unsuccessful. He may end
And he
up an
got
all pro bowl type player. I mean,
yep.
and then CJ, number 2 pick in the draft. I mean, so you can't really say, oh, Ohio State quarterbacks don't do well. Well, you know, they're getting drafted. They're getting
Yeah.
drafted in the first round.
At,
And so, yeah,
at
I think
one.
that's a pretty bogus argument there. But so we'll see. We'll see what happens down there.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I wish him the
if
best.
Dylan,
I'm
yeah,
confident that he'll do well. I mean, like you said, he has the physical
he
attributes and the
should.
talent to do it.
Sure,
And
sure.
anywhere he lands, I'm sure he'll perform at a high level.
I, I I think he could go to Kent State or Akron and make, there's MAC quarterbacks all over the NFL. So
Yeah.
Dylan could have went to Miami of Ohio and in 4 years be the overall number 1 pick in the draft. So if that kid is ready to work and ready to fit in with the
Mhm.
Georgia program where they don't emphasize stars there, it's about the team. If
Yep.
he's all about that, he's going to do fine and he's going to be great. I mean, so we'll see. We'll see what happens down there.
Well, we'll see if he's ready to work. But one thing that he definitely is ready to do is to try and flip and or land some 5-star wide receivers from across the country,
Yeah.
including the one and only Jeremiah J.J. Smith, who obviously, as Ohio State fans knows, number 2 overall recruit based on 247's rankings, and the number 1 wide receiver in the class, generational type talent, lauded as the best South Florida receiver to come out of South Florida, in ever by all accounts. So freak of nature. Ohio State fans, Brian Hartline doesn't lose a lot of these battles. He
No.
doesn't get flips in a lot of cases as well. So I think it's not a long shot necessarily, but there's a lot left to go in this recruitment for him to pull him away from Brian Hartline's commitment in that sense. Now, that being said, he's obviously come out over the last few days after Dylan Raiola committed and said that commitment, they have a close relationship. That commitment has made him maybe take a stronger look at Georgia. I believe, if I remember correctly, he's already set an official to Georgia with Ryan Wingo is going to be there as well.
Yes.
So the two 5-star receivers
Yes.
in the 24 class. He has plans to visit also again officially Miami of Florida, not of Ohio, and Penn State and
Yeah.
potentially Tennessee as well. So he's still obviously open to taking visits. I don't know how much of that is just high school kid getting recruited and enjoying the recruitment process. But I mean, in your opinion, is there something to Rayola and to JJ Smith? And like, tandem pairings of recruits rarely ever happen. I know that. But is that something Ohio State fans should be looking at and kind of being a little bit on edge? Maybe not on edge, but just keeping an eye on what's going down in Athens.
I really don't think so. I think the intention here was always to take visits, from the beginning. So this is no surprise. I would too. If I'm the number two player in America, I'm going to take visits too. And partly because they're great experiences that you will have that experience for the rest of your life. And partly because coaching changes happen.
Hmm.
You want to be prepared for everything as a recruit. Brian Hartline could be the next head coach at you name it, you know, Florida State, Texas, who knows? So you always have to be, or Ryan Day could be the next head coach of you name it again. So as a recruit, I don't think it's all that out of line to keep all your, I don't want to say options open because Ohio State is his option.
Hmm.
Barring anything crazy happening at Ohio State, like Ryan Day leaving, Brian Hartline leaving, barring that happening, he's coming to Ohio State. So I think the family has a great relationship with Hartline and Day. The system fits him like a glove. He can see Harrison and Ibuka, Olave, Smith and Najigba. He knows what's gone on there at Ohio State developing wide receivers. He also knows that he's going to have a clear path to the field as a true freshman at Ohio State. That opens up pretty well for him. Now he's going to have to continue to get better and make himself the best JJ Smith he can be.
Hmm.
But there's a path there for him to start as a freshman at Ohio State. So, barring Ryan Day or Brian Hartline leaving Ohio State, I 100% feel JJ Smith will sign with Ohio State.
Well, that is welcome news, and like I said, he's also come out and said he's having fun. That I saw something that he posted on Twitter
Sure,
with a
sure.
Buckeye logo. Like, man, we've all been in high school before, and you're 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. Like, man, go have fun. Like, enjoy, being the
Yeah.
taste of the town, and enjoy having these teams want you, because that's a huge thing. You're never going to experience it in the same way again. And so I am absolutely 100% for him doing what he thinks is best. And at the end of the day, obviously, what's best is coming to Ohio State, signing on the dotted line. So, we've talked obviously about the quarterback development at Ohio State compared to schools like Georgia, and I mean, no other school right now in the country is developing wide receivers at the same clip as Ohio State. And so if you are the number one wide receiver, if you're the number four wide receiver, Mylan Graham, you know, this should be the landing spot that you want to land to, and, entertain the other conversations. You never know what will be the best fit necessarily for you, but I agree. I mean, I think he's going to land with the Buckeyes at the end of the day. And hopefully, starts, maybe not starts, but sees the field, in a strong capacity in his freshman year, and is the next, Marvin Harrison for two plus years of starting role. That'd be phenomenal to see, to have that talent replace a Marvin Harrison Jr. after a year would be phenomenal.
And to me, he's going to start as a freshman. I'll be shocked if he doesn't start as a freshman. I think he would be in the mix if he were at Ohio State this year. I
Yeah.
think he'd be in the mix for playing time. I really do. I think he's that good.
I mean,
And
Carnell
he's
Tate is
also,
in the mix. So,
yeah, right, right. And JJ is just as good as Carnell or Brandon Ennis.
yeah.
I mean, JJ is, he's so mature for his age. And he's had his family has kind of gone through it with Gino, in the NFL right now with Seattle. So he knows what he has to do. And the kid is such a hard worker. And everybody that I know that knows him just raves about the kid and how mature he is. And physically, he looks like an Ohio State wide receiver right now.
Mhm.
So to me, he's going to start as a freshman and be really, really good too. So
Well,
pretty
you
darn
heard it here
special.
first. It's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bill the
I
Bank
believe it.
Green is rarely wrong when it comes to
I don't know
these
about
things.
that, but this is what I believe on this one.
Well, I mean, there's very little to say otherwise, honestly, on JJ Smith. And, I think you watch the tape, you see it. And, there's times when it comes to you look at a kid and how he plays, and you to put away all the other kind of intangibles and things aside, and just break down the film and watch what he can do on the field. And there's not very many people that can do what JJ Smith does on the field, and in the ease and fashion at which he does it. So early commits, though, to me are always I'm always a little bit nervous about early commitments. So like guys like JJ Smith, guys like Dylan Raiola, guys like Quinn Ewers, guys that commit earlier maybe than you would expect, because there's still so much that happens. And in a lot of cases, I mean, we see it towards the end of the recruiting period almost every year. Teams like Alabama and Georgia come in and just take the guys that they want, that they've wanted the entire cycle, because that's their process, right? And like, so it's always kind of a little bit uneasy, or it sits uneasy with me to see a guy that commits early through the cycle and then has to just wait for a year and a half before they can even actually sign a letter of intent anywhere. So, I mean, in your professional experience, obviously, I'm sure you've seen a ton of these. I mean, we've seen them
all
the
the
last
time.
few years, especially, and it's with NIL. I mean, there's going to be a lot more of them. So I'm curious, in kind of your history, some of the early commitments that have not panned out for Ohio State that maybe stick out in your mind.
Well, the all-time one for me is the guy that's in the NFL right now is Carlton Davis, defensive back. I believe he's still with Tampa Bay, I think. What a special talent he was, too. He was committed to Ohio State. And I went down to Florida in January. Back then, they didn't have the 2 signing periods like we have now. We only had one, first Wednesday in February, And so I'm down there, and Carlton is 3 weeks away from signing with Ohio State. He'd never decommitted. He was solid. I mean, he was coming to Ohio State, and it was going to be great. Well, he happened to come to the South Florida Express tryout camp. He had already played with them the year before, prior to his senior year. And he came to the tryout camp just to kind of see the new kids, how the SFE was going to be. So I grabbed him and said, can we do like an interview about, you signing with Ohio State in 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it was. And he's like, oh, sure. So we did an interview, and he raved about, Urban Meyer, the defensive coordinator, how great it was. I think it was Chris Ash. I think at the time, the DB coaches, how they were going to develop him for the league, how much he loved the city of Columbus, how much he loved the campus, the Real Life Wednesday program that Urban had instituted was so impressive to him and his family. And I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like a commercial for Ohio State. And when the interview was over, I, shook hands and said, hey, man, thanks for your time. And he was like, oh, glad to do it. No problem. And he knew I was like covering Ohio State.
Yeah.
Well, he walked away, and one of my SFE coaching buddies said, you don't think he's going to Ohio State, do you? And I said, well, he's definitely going to Ohio State. I just did the interview. And he goes, he's not going there. He goes, maybe Florida State, maybe Miami, but Ohio State's out. And I'm like, what? He said, Ohio State has no chance. They're done. They have no chance to get him. And I was like, just scratching my head. But I know these guys, so that was like, that gave me pause. When these guys tell me something like that, it's like, uh-oh, I don't like it. And they were just so supremely confident. Like, why would the kid do an interview like this?
Right.
And then he decommitted, and started taking, it was 3 weeks for signing day. He decommitted maybe the next day, and then set his visit schedule after that. And of course he didn't come to Ohio State. But so I've seen it all. But that's the one that stands out to me, because he might have decommitted within hours of doing that video with me. And it was just unbelievable. And the SFE coaches were kind of laughing at me, poking fun at me because I thought he was coming to Ohio State. And I only thought that because the kid just told me he was going to Ohio State like 5 minutes before and bragged about Ohio State. And it's like, I've
I mean,
seen it
why
all.
would you think otherwise after that?
Well, there was no reason. It was a commercial for why every recruit should go to Ohio State. But I've
and
seen it all.
I'm sure he truly did feel that way. I mean, like,
Oh my gosh, I don't
know.
know. I mean, that one just kind of took the cake there. I mean, that was like,
It's kind of like, oh, I love all these things about this.
oh man,
everything was great, everything was phenomenal. I love X, Y, and Z, and then it's like, but you don't get the but at the end of it, right? Because there's always a but, right in that moment. But
well, the coaches, the SFP coaches knew. They knew that he was. He had obviously told them that, hey, I'm not going to Ohio State.
Well, that is definitely a painful story.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have told that. I don't know. Get everybody all worried now. But
I mean, look, we're Ohio State fans, right? We're gonna be like that no matter what, so it doesn't matter. But
until you got the signature,
right?
Until you've got that signature, you think you got him, and with JJ Smith, I am like supremely 100% confident that he is signing with Ohio State, and I truly believe that. Barring Heartliner Day leaving the program, he's going to sign with Ohio State.
And more importantly, you haven't heard otherwise from the SFE guys. Sounds like so. I will.
No, not at all.
I will ride with that for 100% of the time. But obviously, it's Thursday, so I know you've got the bank chat going on all day today. So I'm sure any of the listeners out there definitely go ahead and check out the Ask the Insiders board. Check out the bank chat. Goes on every Thursday. Find out some more about any of these early commitments. Dig up all those old bones that Bill wants to bury deep down in the depths. But anything you want to add just on the chat and kind of what you look forward to most about this every week?
Yeah, it's I don't know what the word is. I mean, I enjoy it probably more than what our subscribers enjoy it. It's a great chance to interact with people. I mean, to me, my chat over the years has always seemed to me like it's a bunch of people sitting around a table in a bar talking sports. We can argue, we can debate, we can agree, and we don't have to talk Ohio State football or Ohio State recruiting. We do. That's the bulk.
Mm-hmm.
I love talking golf. We got a major this week, the PGA. Baseball has started. My Pirates are in first place, basically locked up a World Series berth. I think they're printing tickets now. I'm ready to buy them. So it's just fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's the thing. I would say it's just like sitting around the table in a bar, having a few pops and just talking sports. So, and we usually get started early in the morning, and it usually goes till, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's a lot of fun. It's something I really look forward to. So, and I hope people enjoy it as much as I do, because it's truly a lot of fun.
Well, I think all of the members definitely appreciate the Build the Bank Green Thursday chats, and I know I for one have always been one to go in and just check it out. Read through. It's always interesting to see what people are trying to find out, and all of the different types of conversations and questions that get brought up and asked throughout the process. So it's definitely something I look forward to every week, and we are glad to have you on board and continuing to bust it out week after week. So, Bill, thank you again, as always, for joining here on the episode today, and I look forward to reading through the chat.
All right, Ryan. Anytime.
All right, take care, Bill. We'll talk soon.
Okay.